Hello everybody, today we are going to be ranking all 3 Fear Street films within the Fear Street Trilogy. The Fear Street Trilogy was a special Netflix event that released one film each week for 3 weeks, giving fans something to look forward to each week as the story of Sarah Fear haunting the residents of Shadyside unfolded in reverse chronological order. This is a never-before-seen strategy for releasing films, especially on a streaming service, and it is made all the more interesting because the story is told backwards, to enhance the mystery and keep you on your toes until the final act. Each film is significantly different from the other, so how do they all stack up against one another? Let's find out. In last place is Fear Street Part 2, 1978. For some reason, this seems to be a lot of people's favorite of the 3, but I really just don't see it. The reason this one ranks last is that it feels so disconnected from the other 2 films in terms of continuing and progressing the overall story, the mystery that we all want to figure out. Since the story is told backwards, going back to 1978 to show Camp Nightwing being haunted by the lumberjack killer sounds like a good idea, but it all feels so pointless. The entire movie could stand on its own as a slasher movie, but in my opinion, even on that front, it still fails. Overall, I just think this is a bad slasher movie. It is so cliche and uninspired and brings nothing new to the table. The characters are all so stupid and make dumb choices. The kills aren't even that great, and most of the movie is just people lurking around in the dark before the killer pops up and kills them. The first 30 minutes try setting up characters that we already know are going to die because we know that the woman is telling a story about how her camp was attacked and her sister died. This is where the backward storytelling fails because there is no suspense if I already know the end result. People were praising this movie for feeling like an old school slasher like Friday the 13th, but in my opinion, it just copies everything you love about slasher movies and dumbs it down. The story of Sarah Fear is unraveled slightly, but not enough substance was given to it to make it worth an entire movie. The way I see it, 1978 could have easily been much shorter, just like how Part 3 started in 1666 and then went back to 1994 for the second half of the movie. In general, my main gripes with this movie is that it feels pointless, unoriginal, boring, predictable, and not even scary. I don't like any of the characters, and I already know their fates, so why should I even care? In second place is Fear Street Part 1, 1994. I really enjoyed this movie significantly more than Part 2. My main reason for loving this one so much is the cast members. All the actors are fantastic in this, and teen actors can sometimes be hit or miss, but the main ensemble were all really good. I think they also nailed the homages better as well. They reference Scream and other teen horror movies that I think suit this franchise better, and they use them in a more interesting way. The opening scene is fantastic, and since this is the first movie, there is so much intrigue and mystery to what is really going on in this town. I think it benefits from being a more contained story while still trying to introduce the whole Sarah Fear curse. It maintains its own story of trying to save Sam, which keeps the suspense and pacing of the movie fresh and fast. The final act is thrilling and very entertaining. This film also has the 2 best kills in the supermarket in the last act, and overall, it was actually just a really well-made film. There was a purpose and reason to everything that was happening, and truly, without the last 5 minutes or so of the movie, I would say this one could stand alone as a solid teen horror thriller, since the mystery has just begun and it ends in a satisfying way until the last few minutes, of course. The teen dynamic worked so much better in this movie too. In Part 2, it felt like there was nobody to root for. Everyone was always making fun or being rude to their so-called friends or bullying Ziggy, or just overall having a bad mood the entire film. This film feels so much more fun and energetic because this group of friends actually all like each other and can share some lighthearted moments. Even the relationship between Sam and Dina works really well here, even better than Ziggy and Good from Part 2. And in first place is Fear Street Part 3, 1666. This movie gets first place just slightly above Part 1 because of it being the final film. Rather than giving us more questions, they give us answers in a satisfying conclusion. The first half of the movie takes place all the way back in 1666 and shows the origins of how Sarah Fear cursed the town of Shadyside for generations. It is told through the perspective of characters from the first 2 movies though, which was an interesting filmmaking technique, but I still think the movie could have benefited from casting an entirely new set of characters and using a brand new actress to play Sarah Fear. I think the story would have resonated better without seeing it through the lens of characters we've already seen for 2 movies, but nonetheless, it still worked fine in my opinion. This half of the movie is really well done. The filmmaking here is actually impressive and reminds me of Robert Eggers' The Witch. The dark gray atmosphere, the eerie soundtrack, and the old-timey dialogue make for an immersive horror experience. Then the second half of the movie goes back to 1994 where they go and try to stop the curse. I was not expecting this the first time watching, and it took me for surprise just how well it worked. I'm glad they decided to end it this way because because I thought they were going to try and end it in 1666, but what they actually did makes more sense. This half of the movie is easily my favorite out of all three because it goes into an all-out thriller and we get to see the final battle to stop Nick Good and end the curse on Shadyside. The best part of this film is seeing all the killers come to attack them in the mall, and we see them try and use their traps to kill them all. This is where the entire mystery is unraveled, and it's explained that Nick Good's family has been abusing the curse for generations, taking Shadysiders down to thrive in Sunnyvale. The twist makes sense and works well in my opinion. It just doesn't hit as hard as I thought it would because we don't really spend a lot of time with Sheriff Good for me to be as impacted by it. I don't like twists that come out of nowhere. I like twists where the clues are there from the start and it makes sense once the twist hits. I won't say this twist came out of nowhere, but it just wasn't impactful as I would have liked. Another thing is that this movie retroactively makes part 2 better because it explains the implications of the relationship between Ziggy and Good back in the camp, meaning the curse was there from the beginning. So going back, you could probably get a lot more out of part 2, but I still don't think that saves part 2 from being the worst. You shouldn't need an entire third film to make your movie better. So there you have it, my official ranking of the Fear Street Trilogy. What did you think of this special Netflix release? What was your favorite of all three, and how would you rank all the films? Let me know. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you all next time.